In 2024, I highlighted 22 of the most affordable housing markets in the country with price to income ratios of 3 and under, meaning that the value of the presented houses were equal to 3 years of the median income in that market.
You smell that? What is that?
This was in contrast to some of the most expensive markets in the country.
Opportunity.
Like Los Angeles at 12, Glendale, California at 15, Palo Alto at 19, and Newport Beach at 25. In my Get Ahead 1 Year Later series, we'll see just how much the most affordable real estate in the country sold for. And in this video, we'll revisit Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Lincoln, Nebraska, and Colby, Kansas. So let's start with Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And our first property that we are revisiting is 633 North Menlo Avenue. And it was originally listed on July 17th of 2024 for $179,900. And the listing was removed on July 20th. 3 days later, the listing was removed. And the zestimate for this house is $187,000. So that's $7,000 more than the previous asking price is the zestimate. The second house is 3008 South Waltz Avenue, and it previously sold for $130,000 on March 18th of 2022, and it was listed on July 8th of last year at $230,000, a $100,000 increase in 2 years.
Skyrocketed a few years ago.
Which is really typical of the increases that we've seen in the past 2 years, just the insane inflation in the housing market. It looks like Sioux Falls wasn't immune to those price increases. And it sold on September 10th of last year for $214,000. So that was $16,000 under asking is what it sold for, but that was a 60% increase in 2.5 years from its previously sold price. 60% in 2.5 years. And in March of this year, the median listing price in Sioux Falls was $369,900, up 4.2% year over year. And the median days on market was 40 days. The number of homes listed in February was 489, and the number of homes listed in March was 811. That was a 65% increase in listings from February to March of this year. That's a huge uptick in listings.
That's palpable.
So again, I wonder if people are trying to get on that bandwagon of capitalizing on their equity, or if people can't afford their mortgages because they refinanced into a higher payment. Maybe they lost a job, something happened, and they can't afford it anymore, which is happening a lot, like I've covered in a lot of my videos with Airbnbs. They didn't do their pro formas correctly.
Your monthlies could go up 200-300%.
They do their pro formas based on pandemic era earnings, and that doesn't exist anymore.
James says I can always refinance.
Well, he's a liar.
So I wonder if a lot of people in Sioux Falls are trying to cash in, or if they can't make their payments anymore. And some of this could be attributable to the layoffs at the Sioux Falls VA. There were 2,400 people on probationary status who were laid off. And I know taking your medicine can be unpleasant. That is what the country is doing right now. There is too much hiring in the federal government. The federal government should not be the biggest employer in the country. They may provide services, but those services have to be paid for by people like me and you.
Yeah, it's time to call bullshit.
We need to bring production back to this country, guys. We have to. We have to start building things that people want and need. Services are fine. Veterans need to be taken care of, but the government cannot be the biggest employer. The horsefly can't be bigger than the horse. The parasite can't be bigger than the host. The host will die.
I have 5 houses and a condo.
And the idea behind all these layoffs, we know, even though it doesn't feel good, we know that it's to redirect public sector workers to the private sector, thereby cutting government spending and reducing the federal deficit. And this is all being done in the name of deflation to fight the kind of price increases that we're seeing in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
They weren't being stupid. They just didn't care.
Which we are slowly accomplishing. And even though this hurts, asset prices are definitely coming down overall, which is the express goal of keeping interest rates high. And I'm still on the fence about Jerome Powell. I would really love to see rates come down so that people can be more lendable to buy homes. But I also know that we need to bring asset prices down. They're too high. They're overvalued.
These people just want homes.
So this is some necessary medicine that the country is having to take right now, even though it's not fun. A study by LendingTree.com found that 53% of Gen Z respondents said that they are hoping for a housing crash to lower prices and make home ownership more affordable. In some cities, they're getting their wish, but in others, they'll have to wait. And it really comes down to finding those deals. And those deals are still available in these affordable housing markets that I showcase on this channel. There are motivated buyers out there. There are bankrupt house flippers who couldn't finish their flips, and there are failed, outlawed Airbnbs. And let's move on to Lincoln, Nebraska. And the first house is 640 South 29th Street. And it last sold on April 1st, 2021, 4 years ago, for $160,000. And on July 19th of last year, 3 years later, it was listed for $190,000. And it sold on September 25th of last year, about 2 months after it was listed, for $178,000. So $16,000 below asking. That sounds like it was a pretty balanced buyer and seller market. They priced it high. They were able to negotiate down. It sounds like that was a good deal that the people reached. The next house in Lincoln, Nebraska is 547 Skyway Road, and it was listed on July 17th of last year for $180,000, and it was sold about a month later for $10,000 over asking. The best part about this one is that it was relisted on January 8th of this year, so only 5 months later it was relisted at $294,900. That is a huge increase. That was $104,000
Skyrocketed a few years ago.
increase. So nearly a third more. And it is actually pending as of March 16th of this year for $279,900.
They weren't being stupid. They just didn't care.
This is a flip to me, and you guys know how I feel about flips.
I was a bartender. Now I own a boat.
But Lincoln is growing, and it's growing more diverse. And the population grew by 33,000 people from 2010 to 2020. But the city is projected to add roughly 105,000 people between now and 2025. Not only does it have a lower unemployment rate than the national average, but with lower rent prices and higher salaries, Lincoln is a great choice for those looking to start or advance their careers. And the living wage here for a single adult in Lincoln is $20.48.
Yes! That's right.
Also, speaking of Lincoln, Nebraska, at my trip to World Market this morning, I found top of the morning coffee. It's absurdly good coffee, and it's the Midnight Oil blend with a nutty, chocolatey, and a spoonful of mystery taste. This is a dark roast here, if you're into dark roast, and this is from the Top of the Morning LLC in Lincoln, Nebraska. So if you ever go to Lincoln, pick up some Top of the Morning coffee, or if there's a World Market in your town, pick this up. The Taste of Lincoln, Nebraska. You know what you can get in Lincoln, Nebraska. Top of the Morning. Not being paid to advertise that, but I just found it and Thought I'd plug it.
These are very complicated products.
The only house in Colby, Kansas that I highlighted is 985 West 3rd Street. And this was listed on June 13th of last year for $119,500. It went pending on September 4th, about 4 months later, at $99,000. So about $20,000 under asking. And it sold for an unknown price on November 15th of that year. About a month after it went pending, it sold. But the Realtor.com estimate is only $177,000. So this house, the estimate is way over what it was listed for and probably what it sold for. I'm guessing that someone probably got a really good deal on this house.
Money. It's more money.
Maybe someone found something with the foundation or some massive problem that would cost a lot of money, and the seller just wanted to get rid of this house.
Sell it all.
And there are some really interesting things going on in Colby, Kansas. Again, this is getting into the weeds. This is the nerding out part of Get Ahead. The city of Colby, Kansas is getting new affordable housing units as ground was broken on the Willow Estates development. In a 2024 news release from the city of Colby said that the groundbreaking celebrated the Willow Estates affordable housing development, which consists of new construction of 9 duplexes, 18 units, in an office/maintenance building. 12 units are targeted to people making at or below 60% of the area median income.
I can afford it.
And 6 units are at 50% AMI. And to fund these new projects, the city of Colby has issued both industrial revenue bonds and hospital loan anticipation revenue bonds in the amount of $108.3 million in 2024. They've also explored the possibility of sales tax and revenue bonds.
Oh, no, that's smart. That's smart.
Municipal bonds can be bought through primary or secondary markets, and you'll probably have to contact a brokerage or financial advisor to check for current offerings. And another project that's being built in Colby, Kansas is a hospital that's already been bringing in specialists from various locations, including Denver and even Columbus, Ohio, to ensure that patients in rural Kansas have access to specialized medical care. These providers travel to Colby to see patients on a scheduled basis, helping reduce the need for long-distance travel for care.
Finally.
One example of this expansion is the partnership with Salina Orthopedics, which has significantly increased the number of orthopedic surgeries performed locally. Last year alone, over 200 orthopedic procedures were conducted at this hospital in Colby, Kansas. This means fewer residents have to make lengthy trips for consultations and surgeries, improving healthcare accessibility and convenience. So affordable housing, municipal bonds to fund these projects, and the growth in the services and jobs like nursing and supportive services like cooking, food production, waste management, janitorial services, anything like that that supports this hospital are great reasons to be exploring small towns like Colby. So you can see, guys, that there is a lot of growth going on in small towns like Sioux Falls, Lincoln, Nebraska, and Colby, Kansas. And it's really interesting to follow up a year later to see how these markets are growing, and also that they have delicious offerings coming out of these towns. Production. They're producing products that Americans want. This is the exciting part right here.
That's right.
Remember to like, subscribe, comment below, and don't give up when you can get ahead.